What we're going to do today is creating and developing, modifying some PBR shaders. So PBR stands for Physically Based Renderer. That's a recent, more modern technique for rendering video games and interactive applications, where instead of having like pre-cooked textures, you define the materials and you have a shader program that runs for every pixel on the screen. And we're going to take a look at where I'm already at with the Physically Based Renderer pipeline with the fragment shader. Let me open up the project here. Everything is already up and running, so the game works, the shader is working. The game engine itself is written in C++, it's a custom engine that I wrote for this game. You might see that this is kind of like the base of a PBR shader that you will see everywhere on the internet. It's got this GGX Schlick Smith thingamajig. I'm going to show you what it looks like initially, without any texturing and shading going on, and then we'll gradually work our way through adding new features to this. This is my first coding live stream. This is usually what I do during the daytime, but hey, don't worry about it. Take a look at the, especially the metal rendering. So these buttons on the shirt are metal, and these side trims on the shirt are also metallic. And just take a look at like the fidelity and the colors that are going on here. I also have some proper dudes like these. Instantly you can see like the material differences between this dude and this dude. It's the same dude, but it's with different materials. This fighter man with the sword and the shield, he's got a metallic armor, so take a look at the reflections on this. It looks pretty spiffy. Let's hop into the game world for a moment here and just take a look at all of like the different material shaders. So players familiar with the game know that like the current version of the game doesn't look anything like this because it doesn't have dynamic lighting. So we have dynamic shadows going on like this. You can see all of the individual tree leaves just moving in the shadow. And it looks pretty good. All of the materials have like their own roughness and their own specularity and their metallic properties set. But the thing that we're going to be looking at today is improving the artificial lighting. So these are actually lanterns. They look a little bit abstract right now because they don't have texturing going on, and we want to make them like give off light just like the sun does. So if you look at the sun and if you take a look at the reflection here on the grass, you can actually see that the sun is reflecting off of the grass, and the grass is kind of like glossy, so it does have this nice reflection to it. The pavement, for instance, is a little bit less glossy, so you don't see as much of a highlight there. But as you can see, none of these lanterns, these are lanterns too, none of these give off light currently. In the current engine, so in the fixed function pipeline rendering, the engine takes care of rendering the light. It just passes over the lighting information via vertex colors to OpenGL. And this shader-based renderer doesn't do that just yet. But as you can see, the grass is looking pretty spiffy, the shadows are pretty nice. The game has a time-lapse mode, so if you enable that, we can fly around with the camera and you can see the shadows just moving across the landscape, but pay close attention to the shading of all of the materials. So you can see the sun actually passing by from left to right there. Take a look at the metallic like buttons on this model. You can see the reflection of like the horizon and the skybox in there. I will teleport around in the world for a moment so we can see different terrains and kind of different material shading properties. So this is a savanna. Pay close attention to the way the shadows change the shading on these materials. You can already see that like the shading looks pretty convincing. One thing that I like to do, to even show you another trick, let's open up the game world renderer here. And we can even like disable rendering of some of the smaller details. So small foliage, that's the kind of the grass blades that are standing up, we can disable those. Block decorations, that's like the small rocks that you see scattered around. If we remove those, the landscape instantly becomes a lot cleaner and you can like see the material shading and effect much better. So hey, where's the grass? The grass is gone. So here we are in one of the like more special areas in the game with floating rocks. The marble is very glossy. And you can see those highlights just going along with the rocks. This grassy knoll, kind of, it's got this nice gloss on it, so you can now actually see this specular highlight much better than before because we disabled all of those in between grass blades. So here we have some jelly. This is some moving jelly, you jelly bro, but it should give off light. So this is actually a mass of blobs sort of that should give off purple light, and as you can see at the moment it doesn't give off light. As the day goes by, the sun moves and the shadows just drift over the landscape. And I removed some of the dramatic ambient occlusion when layers of blocks connect to each other. So you get these very nice smooth looking hills like this. This is one vertical layer sort of, and this block is one layer above that. And there used to be like a very hefty ambient occlusion effect. You can still see some of the ambient occlusion, so there's a little bit of light occlusion here, but it's much better now, much smoother. So without the grass and without the rocks to distract you, you can now finally see like all of the material shading. It's looking fine and online. My goal is to add this artificial lighting. It's already in the engine, so the engine can already compute the lighting. But what I want to do is add reflections for all of the lights. Most render engines, they are bound to like maybe 8 lights tops, maybe 16 if the devs are feeling fancy. What I want to do is support unlimited lights. Boom! So everywhere you place a lantern, it will actually reflect off of the blocks, and you will have these very nice highlights coming in from all sides, feeling like you're actually there. Some of these domes are built with metallic materials like copper and gold. Check it out. I love gold. The look of it, the smell of it. Oh, here you can see a very good difference between the materials. So this is gray marble, which is actually pretty glossy, and there's patina, which is kind of like a rusted version of copper next to it. But just check out the difference in shading. So this is kind of like what the PBR thing does. Metallic materials, they look like a lot different compared to non-metallics. It has something to do with like their surface properties in real life. So check this out in the time-lapse mode. This is a metal bunny with a purple anodized steel, and check out the reflection as it moves across the daytime. That looks pretty spiffy. I like it. It's very cool. There's also a metallic lion next to it. So what I want to do is to make it that this lantern, the one right here, the one I'm zooming in on, like this one, enhance. This lantern. How cool would it be if you could actually see it reflect in this piece of metal over here? We actually have another player here, I think. Yeah, this is another player. We can't tell what their name is because our textures are disabled. I think some NPC is trying to tell me something. Yeah, sorry NPC, I don't speak untextured text at the moment. Hey bro, what's up? So the current textures are just flat textures that used to be applied to the material. They don't really work well for this PBR style. The shading itself is good, so you can see this highlight on this rolling hill over here. The hills themselves are very smooth. So we've got a good base, but we're going to focus on the artificial light today. So we're going to hack the shader and we're going to hack the game engine to support infinite artificial lights. Is everyone ready? I'm ready.